Here's a project that we've been working on, and I've added a couple more elements to it. But what we're going to be concentrating on now is adding some text to enhance the project. So we'll be adding a title, lower thirds, and credits at the end of the project. To start off with, I'm going to show you how you can manually add text, and in this case, we're going to make a manual lower third for our project. So in my timeline, I'm going to advance to the area where I want to include the lower third, and this is going to be at the beginning of this clip that has a video of the narrator, and we're going to go ahead and introduce the narrator. Now, before I go ahead and add the text, the first thing I'm going to do is in the program window, I'm going to come to the wrench icon and I'm going to turn on safe margins. This is going to create an overlay of where the safe margin area is within Premiere. As you can see, there are two rectangles that appear on the screen. These clip overlays are going to show you where the action safe area is and where the title safe area is within your sequence. The outer rectangle is your action safe area. So if you have any main action taking place, you don't want it to be dependent on these outer edges because this area might not be displayed on certain screens. When we add titles, we want to make sure that they're not hidden or clipped. So it's recommended to put our titles within the title safe area, which is this inner rectangle. These safe margin overlays in Premiere will provide visual indicators on boundaries within which you can restrict your video image and text to the safe areas. Now that I have that chosen, I'm going to make sure that my timeline is selected and my playback head is parked at where I want to place the text. I'm going to go up to Graphics and Titles. We're going to add a new layer and we'll choose Text. In addition, you can add vertical text, rectangle, ellipse, polygon, or import a file. I'll go ahead and click Text, and as you can see, some new text now appears on my screen. I'm going to go ahead and position this in the area where I want it to show, and then to change what the text says, we simply double click. I'll go ahead and put the name of the subject, and then we'll go ahead and add another text layer. So once again, Graphics, New Layer, Text. This is going to create a second text layer, and we'll change this to say Ocean Freediver and Swimmer. If you want to move the text, you'll need to switch back to your selection tool. I'm going to rearrange my panels so that the timeline has a little bit more real estate. We'll switch back to the selection tool, and now I can grab the text and place it where I want within my program window. I'm obviously going to need to edit the text in regards to both color and size. We can do that by opening up our effect controls. If we access the effect controls, you'll see that each piece of text is listed here. If we twirl this open, we can go ahead and make changes. So I'm going to go ahead and change the font family. This is going to give me a sample of all of the fonts that I have loaded on my system. When you're adding text to the screen, it is recommended that you don't pick very hard to read text. So this font right here, and let's just change the fill color so we can more easily see this. Here is not recommended because it's too light and thin, and the script makes it more difficult to read. So it's best to use fonts that are thicker and a little bit more straightforward. I'm simply going to use Arial, and I'm going to reduce the size of the font because this is far too large. This is where we can control the font size. So you can use the slider or you can numerically type in a value. I'll go ahead and add a value of 50. And this bit of text is going to appear at the bottom underneath the name. So I'll select the name and we'll just drag this up a little bit. And once again, we're going to change the font. So I need to close the Ocean Freediver and go to the Emily text. Here, I'll go ahead and pick the same font family of Arial. We're going to go ahead and make the font style bold, and we'll change the size here to 80. And then I'm going to go ahead and pick a color. So I want to use the same color. I'm going to use the eyedropper and simply sample the blue that we've already specified. In addition to changing the color on the text, you may want to add a stroke to make the text a little bit easier to see, especially if the text is going to be on a varied color background. And in addition to that, you could add a background color or you can add a shadow. So I'm just going to add a stroke. If you want to control the weight of the stroke, you can increase the weight right here. So if we make this 2, it'll be slightly thicker. I'm going to go to my ocean freediver text and we'll add a stroke here as well. And we're going to make this a little bit thicker. Now, because this text is thinner, it's a little bit more difficult to read with the stroke. So in lieu of using the stroke, I'm going to use a shadow. So I'll turn this off and I'm going to add a shadow. If you want to change the color of the shadow, you can simply click here, and I'm going to pick a more white shadow. And then you can dial in the opacity of the shadow and also the thickness of the shadow. So lots of controls and ways that you can make this look exactly like you want. We'll reduce the offset to about 5, and then I'm going to go ahead and increase the opacity to about 50, and I think that that looks okay. So this particular text is part of a lower third. It usually appears in the lower third portion of the screen. If we play this segment. Hi there, my name is Emily and I spend a lot of time swimming. You can see that the text is a little blurry when we play it, and that's because I'm viewing my program at quarter resolution. So if we increase this to full resolution and play it, it should look a little bit better. Hi there, my name is Emily and I spend a lot of time swimming and free diving. So that's going to give you a better idea, but because my system is lagging a little bit, I'm going to go down to the quarter resolution, which will allow the video to play a little bit more smoothly. If you want to augment the length of the lower third, you can go ahead and just stretch this out, and it will then persist across the duration of the video. I'm going to go ahead and select my title, and then we're going to go into the Ocean Freediver and Swimmer section, and we're going to add a background. And I'll go ahead and pick up a color just so I can show you what this looks like. I'll pick white as my color. And then if we twirl open the settings right here, you can control the opacity, you can control the thickness, so how much padding you might want to have on that particular element. We'll go ahead and set that to 5. You can increase the rounding of the corners, but I'm going to leave mine straight. And as you can see in your effect controls, you have a lot of different ways in which you can control the text. So you really can dial this in and create just about anything that you want. In addition to being able to control these attributes, some of the properties are going to be keyframeable as well. So this is a good introduction on how you can manually create a lower third. And remember that it doesn't have to be a lower third. You might just want to place text on your screen. If you just want text to appear on the screen, you would place your playback head where you want the text, go to Graphics and Titles, make a new layer of text, and it'll create your new text layer. Because I just augmented this secondary piece of text, the new text came in with that specific style. I can always go in and select the text and make changes. I also wanted to point out that this new text is on its own video channel. Even though we had 2 text elements appearing on the first video channel, they were grouped together. And that's because when I made the second text layer, I had this particular text element selected. If nothing is selected, when you create a new title sequence, it will just go ahead and make a new layer. If you have text that is selected on your screen and you want to group it with other text, make sure it's selected. And now when you go to Graphics and Titles and assign a new text layer, it's going to be part of that new text. You can obviously position it wherever you want and change what this text says, but these elements are going to be grouped together and treated as one unit. So if I bring them over here, you'll see if we move our playback head, that new text is going to show up together. Clearly, you have a lot of options for being able to incorporate text into your projects. And just like anything else, once you have a text layer or text item, you can go ahead and animate it with any of your motion effects or the opacity effects. So if I wanted my text to fade in, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to delete this first piece of text, and we'll have this text right here move and fade in. We'll need to select the text. I'm going to close the text layers within the effect controls, and then we're going to go ahead and place our playback head at the position where we want the text to be at its final resting point. So we'll just say that that's going to happen right here. And I'm going to go ahead and create a keyframe for position and for opacity. Then I'll move my playback head back to the beginning of the clip, and I'm going to augment these things. So for position, we're going to go ahead and we're going to have this item kind of fall in from maybe about halfway down. And we're also going to have it fade in. So I'll reduce the opacity all the way down. So if we play this portion of the clip, take a look.
Hi there, my name is Emily, and I spent
You can see how the text is now going to fade and move onto the screen. As you noticed when I did this, the text moved together as one unit. It also is possible to have the text move independently. I'll go to my ending keyframe, and let's actually just turn these settings off. Premiere is going to warn me that I'm getting rid of my keyframes. And then what we're going to do, instead of using the video settings, we're going to go back into the text. And you can rearrange the text here as well. I generally like the text to be in the order in which it's going to appear. So for the Emily text, I'm going to have this move down from the top of the screen. My playback head is in the final position. So I'm going to turn on the keyframing for position and opacity, just like we did before. And before I make the beginning keyframes, I'm going to do the same thing on the ocean freediver swimmer text. So once again, we'll turn on the keyframe for position and opacity. I'm going to move back to the beginning of the clip, and then we'll go ahead and set our keyframes. So for this bottom bit of text, I'm going to have this appear from coming up from the bottom portion of the screen, and it will fade in. So I'll just reduce the opacity. And then for the text with my name, I'm going to have this text come in from above. So we'll have it appear like basically halfway up, and we'll reduce the opacity here as well. So let's just play this so you can see the difference.
Hi there, my name is Emily, and I spend a lot of time.
So as you can see, lots of different ways in which you can handle text. You have a plethora of options in regards to styling the text, animating the text, and having it interact with your project.